Welcome to the Charting Courses Podcast, a show brought to you by the team at Ventura MedStaff, dedicated to helping traveling medical professionals navigate the world of travel healthcare. We're back with another episode. I'm your host, Luke, and today we're talking about something that comes up all the time with travelers, bringing pets on assignment. Because let's be honest, for a lot of healthcare professionals, pets are family, and when you're heading out on a 13-week assignment across the country, the big question is, do they come with you? To help answer that question, I'm joined by Brittany.
Hi, everyone.
She talked with our recruiters to see what tips they offer travelers so they can bring their furry friends on assignments with them. Thanks for being here, Brittany.
Thanks for having me, Luke. I'm so excited about this episode. This is such a fun topic because I know so many travelers want to bring their pets along for the adventure.
So let's start with the big question. What is the benefits of bringing your pet along with you on your travel healthcare assignment?
Honestly, pets bring a sense of home with you wherever you go. When you're traveling for work, you're in a new city, new facility, and most of the time you don't know anyone there. So having your pet with you can make the experience feel less lonely and a lot more comfortable. It also turns your assignment into a shared adventure. So instead of exploring a new city alone, you've got a built-in travel buddy.
Right. It kind of turns the assignment into a lifestyle instead of just a job.
Exactly. Many travelers say bringing their pets helps them settle into a new place faster.
Okay, so let's get into the logistics. What's the biggest challenge travelers face when they bring a pet?
Housing, without a doubt. Finding housing as a healthcare traveler can already be super competitive and complicated, but when you add a pet into the mix, your options can shrink significantly. There are some estimates that suggest pet-friendly housing can reduce available options by up to 75%. And those options are often more expensive too.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It is. That's why planning early is so important if you're traveling with a pet. This starts from the beginning when you're picking where you even want to travel to. Of course, you can go anywhere in the country with your pet, but there are some cities that are just inherently more pet friendly, like Portland or Scottsdale. Places that are going to be known for their outdoor culture, walkability, and abundance of dog parks. From there, travelers can start their pet friendly housing search.
So, what are some strategies travelers can use to find pet-friendly housing?
There are a few really helpful approaches they can try. First, start your housing search early. If you're bringing a pet, the earlier you start looking, the better your chances are going to be of finding something that fits your needs. Second, don't be afraid to reach out directly to landlords. Sometimes listings will say no pets, but landlords may be willing to make an exception if you explain your situation.
That's a really interesting point. I'm sure a lot of travelers just automatically disregard a listing if it says no pets allowed, but you are right. It's always worth double checking and asking.
Absolutely. And worst case scenario, the answer is still no and you move on. But sometimes you can turn a no into a yes, especially if you can show that your pet is well behaved.
It brings up a good point. How can travelers make landlords feel comfortable about renting to someone with a pet?
One of the best things you can do is provide references. For example, letters from previous landlords, dog sitters, or even your vet that describe your pet's behavior and health can go a long way. Some travelers even include a photo of their pet in the message.
So, did you just describe a pet resume basically?
Yes. It sounds funny, but it really works. You can also offer things like a pet deposit, a cleaning fee, or, just letting the landlord know that your pet will be crated while you're at work.
It's actually a good transition to another question. Travel healthcare professionals often work long shifts. What should people think about when it comes to pet care while they're working?
The theme here is planning ahead. So, if you have long shifts, you might want to look into dog walkers, pet daycare, or, even checking in with some nearby neighbors who might be able to offer pet sitting services. Establishing a routine is also helpful so, your pet can adjust to your schedule.
Just like you plan your assignment logistics, you plan your pet logistics.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some things travelers should do before they even leave for their assignment?
There's a few important things. So make sure your pet's vaccinations are up to date and bring copies of their medical records. Some housing providers require this information, and then it's also really helpful to just have on hand if you need to visit a vet while you're on assignment. You'll also want to make sure to pack essentials like food, medication, toys, bedding, and anything familiar that helps your pet feel comfortable in a new environment.
So basically, your pet gets their own packing list.
Yeah, their own suitcase.
Once you arrive at your assignment, what should travelers do to help their pets adjust?
Give them time to explore their new environment. Take them on walks around the neighborhood, find local parks, and establish a routine early on. This is going to help reduce their stress and help them feel comfortable in their new surrounding.
Fun. Sounds like a good way to get to know your new city with the bonus perk of not having to do it alone.
Exactly. It's definitely one of the best parts of bringing your pet along with you on your travel healthcare adventures.
All right, final question. For travelers who are on the fence about bringing their pets, is it worth it?
Well, everyone's got to kind of figure that answer out for themselves, but for a lot of people, the answer is yes. It does require extra planning and a little more work, but it also comes with companionship and a whole lot of love.
Well, Brittany, thanks for sharing all those tips. If you're a healthcare traveler thinking about bringing your pet along for your next assignment, hopefully this episode gave you a better idea of what to expect and what to prepare. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Charting Courses podcast, brought to you by Ventura MedStaff. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a like, share it with your friends, and follow our channel so you never miss an episode.